welcome to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. For this video, listen, I know you read the title, but it's not going to be marathon reading. I'm not going to read for 24 hours straight or for 48 hours straight or read until it's unenjoyable for me. That's not what I like doing. I thought I'd just take you along a couple of days in which I prioritize reading and I try and read a little bit more. I start uni again next week, which means that this is the last week that I can take it a little bit easier. It's the last week in which, my evenings are relatively free, and therefore I just wanted to read and finish some books that I've been wanting to finish for a while. And I thought I'd take you along with me because I feel like I just want to take it slow this week. So you'll see a couple of days of me taking it slow, reading a lot, hopefully. And yeah, I'm reading from a wide array of books. There are a few library books that I have to return soon. There are other books that I've just felt called to this week. And so yeah, I'll show you those. I'll talk about them. Some you've heard before on the channel, others maybe I haven't mentioned. And I'm just gonna go to a cafe and sit down and read. What I like doing when I go to a cafe, and this is probably the neurodivergent side of myself, is that I like setting a timer. I love using my Pomodoro app. It just keeps me focused, and I just feel like I know when things are starting and things are ending. And if I were to go to a cafe to just sit down and read with no timer, I would just not be focused, and that is fine. But for this, like when I want to read and I want to enjoy the cafe experience whilst reading, it has to be with a timer. So I take my little loop earplugs, stick those in, and read. And then I thought I would show you how I've been keeping notes on books, because I've been really enjoying doing that, and I have found a different way that works a little bit better for me than just writing things down on a notebook, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because I love writing things in notebooks, but it takes too long, and that is a barrier that stops me from actually committing to note taking. Anyway, so that is what we're doing. We're just taking it slow. There are my cats. Hey, babies.
House is on fire. I'm holding the lighter. The truth is I meant to, but I didn't call you. I fear I'm the punchline, delusion and sunshine. Finding all my scenes are written out. I'm missing marks, it's too drawn out.
I just spent about an hour reading Healing Resistance at the cafe, and I want to spend another couple hours reading today. Again, I've used my little tags, and I've used so many of them because there's so many good little nuggets of wisdom in here. My friend lent me this book. Two of my friends said that this was life-changing. They are both activists. This is kind of describing how activism goes hand in hand with spirituality and nonviolence, and is basically outlining all the principles of nonviolence. I think the feeling, and I texted my friend about this, I was sitting at the cafe, and basically the feeling that I had was that I just wanted to read out loud to everybody in the cafe. I was feeling really inspired, and I was feeling like this was opening so many different pathways to thinking differently about how I want to move forward in the world and in, my studies and my career. And I think it is an excellent book to not only think about that, but think about yourself and your relationships and how you deal with those and how you interact with people and the world on a daily basis, and how we can interact in a better way, in a more peaceful way, a non-violent way. Yeah, I guess it also just made me think of a lot of, relationships in which I've we've had conflict and how I have dealt with that. I don't know, it's just making me think a lot. So yeah, this is Healing Resistance, a radically different response to harm. It's also so wonderful seeing my friends' highlighted bits. It's quite nice being able to read a book that has been well loved by somebody else. So yeah. It's a beautiful day today and it's not gonna last long. It's gonna be raining for the next week. So I'm gonna go outside. I have my books with me and let's see where we end up.
I'll be having a good day until I think I see your face. Has anyone seen valet? I just wanna get to your place. Been holding my dumb phone.
I didn't end up doing a whole lot of reading. I thought I was gonna go sit at a park and read, but I ended up doing bookish things instead, really. What I did do was listen to parts of the book that I'm currently reading, which I've discussed a couple of times already. I'm reading My Friends, and I do this quite often if the book is available on Spotify as an audiobook, is that when I'm really immersed in the book, but I don't want to take the book out with me, or like I can't read on the bus. I get dizzy and it's just, I've tried, it's not for me. And I take the bus a lot. So I see if it's available on Spotify. This one is. I'm really enjoying the audiobook. The audiobook version of it is quite beautiful, so I do recommend that one as well. So I got through a big chunk of that because I spent quite a bit of time on the bus. I did end up buying one book. Listen, I've been talking about how good my book buying ban has been, and yet I've been buying a few books. I do buy books that I feel compelled to have so that I can have them forever. And it's usually like my favorite authors, books that I know I'll have to wait for a long time at the library. So I check and see. And if it's a long wait list and I want to read it straight away, then I do. But I ended up getting On Palestine. That is just a book that I'm sure that I'll enjoy having forever. And I just saw it at the bookstore and I got it. So that was my one purchase. I was really good because I had like 4 books in my hand and I said to myself, you have so many books that you need and want to read on your bedside table, on your book stand. Where is this book stand? It's right there. So I'm quite proud of that. I put them all back and kept this one. And then I picked up 2 books from the library, quite popular books. I had to wait for a couple of months. I do not know where I got these recommendations, but I got these recommendations from someone somewhere. Listen, I actually think that this is not a recommendation. I think this was part of a women's prize list. Was it? I think it was. So I think that's where I got that one from. And because I'm always interested in reading fantasy, I got this one, The Spear Cuts Through Water. It's a chunky one. So I'll probably need to get started on that one quite quickly because I think I only have, 2-3 weeks with this one. It seems like it's one that I won't be able to renew because it's quite popular. And look at that. Isn't that quite beautiful? Let's see if the back one is, oh, it is so nice. It says, both a sweeping adventure story and an intimate exploration of identity, legacy, and belonging. The Spear Cuts Through Water is an ambitious and profound saga that will transport and transform you and is like nothing you've ever read before. Why wouldn't you want to read that if that's the if that's what it says? So those are the 2 books. I think I'm gonna get through a little bit of Healing Resistance and Pond, and yeah, that's all I have to report. I shall see you a little bit later. And now, a cup of tea. That's what we need to make. camera is rolling and it'll just continue to roll until it runs out of memory because I have 2 cats on me and I cannot move. That's just how it goes. It's the law. I cannot move first. They must move first. Yeah. So that's good because my only plan tonight is to read. So works for me. It works for me. Okay, so this is one of the things that I do that I said that I was going to show you. And with books like Healing Resistance, where there's a lot of things that I want to retain and remember, especially because it is not my book. It's a book that I'll have to eventually return. And look how many notes I have on there. I now like to create a board, and I use Mila Note to do that. And I love Mila Note. I've been using them for a while, but I kind of forgot they existed. But I find it such a good way to, take notes of books, but also he mentions many different books that he has read and texts that he has read, so I can make note of that. So I'm going to spend some time doing that, but in the meantime, I'll show you one of my boards. So for instance, these are some of the articles that I read during this date. And what I do is that I read the article or just keep note of the article. And then here I would write my notes on it. And this is just an easy way for me to be able to remember the things that I read and to keep track of it. And something that I've always been interested in is creating my own, my own way of interacting with the internet. And this is one way that I really like. So this is what happened. I ended up getting sick, which meant I tend to think that that means that I read more, but it's never the case because I'm brain dead. I have brain fog, and all I want to do is just watch something that requires very little brain power. So that kind of messed up my video. But I think that I did prioritize reading, and I read more than I would usually have. So I thought that I would, because I didn't end the video because it happened on my second day after the afternoon. I just started getting more and more sniffly, and then I got a terrible headache, and then it was just all downhill from there. But I did manage to get some reading done. So just to recap, my books are over here. I ended up finishing My Friends, and boy, oh boy, what a beautiful novel. I predicted this. I had a feeling from the first few pages that I was really going to love it, and I did. This is just beautifully paced. There's many chapters in this book that time kind of slows down, and it slows down around these episodes of intense experiences. And then suddenly time kind of speeds up to remind the reader, to remind the character that kind of life moves on even throughout big trauma and big emotional experiences. The characters are all just so complex, and I really enjoyed this novel. This novel is an exploration of grief, of exile, of violence, trauma, but most of all, it is, of course, about friendship. It's a study on friendship and how friendship deals with all of these. I think especially if you do not live where you're from, if you live abroad, listen, this is highly political, and these are 3 friends that have been exiled, and they're living in London. But they touch a lot on identity and the meaning of home. And so I related to that a lot, and maybe was very drawn to the story because of that. Wonderful, 10 out of 10, would recommend. I've read most of what he's written, if not everything he's written, and I just cannot fault him. I cannot. I think he's one of my favorite authors, and I love finding a favorite author, because it takes time to find an author that is your favorite, because you have to consistently love what they write, and I think that's quite rare. Anyway, recommend. So finished that one. I then obviously got through a big chunk of healing resistance, and I've already spoken about it. Where I have ended is in a chapter that is called Attack Forces of Evil, Not Persons Doing Evil. And that is something that I need to remind myself of consistently. People are not our enemy. It's injustice. Injustice is the enemy. And we all operate under very specific frameworks. And we all operate under a system that benefits some and doesn't benefit others. And that can result in a whole plethora of things that happen. It can result in poverty, it can result in violence, and we need not to attack the people, but attack the systems. There was a part here. I was having dinner once with an activist and a retired marriage counselor. She told me that there is one important question that everyone needs to ask themselves to build a strong foundation for a relationship. That question is, how do my partner's traumas come out, and can I live with that? So, yeah. Healing resistance. Also recommend. I'm halfway through and it's been fantastic so far. And probably inspired by healing resistance, I picked up the Yoga Sutras, which the Yoga Sutras, a text I haven't picked up in many a year. I used to be an avid yogi. I did a lot of yoga. I did teacher trainings. I was a highly spiritual person for many years, and then one thing led to another and I kind of fell out of it, and I feel like it was necessary for me to fall out of it and become a little bit more cynical and have a bit of distance. I think I was reconciling with I don't know, I went to India, I came back and I thought to myself, why as myself a white person should I be teaching yoga? And this is not to discredit any other yoga teacher who is white. It's just, for me, there was something that didn't align and something that didn't feel good. And so I never pursued it. But then that just led to me kind of turning my back on it altogether, because it was just so intertwined with, I don't know, many things that we don't have to discuss right now. Anyway, I'm kind of surprised that I picked this up, and I'm kind of just gonna go through with it and see where it lands. I rolled out my yoga mat for the first time in a very long time, and it felt really good, especially because I've been sick and I haven't been moving that much. And yeah, just spending some time, 20 minutes on the yoga mat felt incredible. I picked this up. I read the Yoga Sutras through one of my yoga teacher trainings, and I remember finding it quite enlightening. So now I'm going through this one. This is kind of like an extremely simplified version of it, probably exactly what I need for right now. Yeah, so I got to like 30 pages of that. I think one of the things that I do kind of think about quite often is my relationship with discipline. And I've mentioned this many times before, but it is something that I'm always trying to find some balance with discipline, because I can be either not disciplined at all or overly disciplined, and neither of those feel good. So being able to sit somewhere in the middle has been quite difficult for me. And I am excited to see if I can, this time around, engage with a practice in a way that feels good and feels sustainable and doesn't feel like it's stressing me out. Anyway, so that was the Yoga Sutras. And lastly, I started the spear cuts through water. I went into this not knowing anything, except for the fact that it was recommended to me by someone somewhere, as I said. And I started it, and it's interesting. It seems to be experimental. It seems to have shifting narrators, and it seems to be a little bit more complex than I thought it would be, which is exciting for me. and I am eager to read a little bit more. I picked this up when I was sick, and I thought to myself, I don't know what's happening right now, so I have to put it down. I need something a little bit easier. So yes, I think this is going to be a quite tender love story from what I hear, and it is a high fantasy novel. So I'm gonna get stuck into it actually right now. So those are the things that I read in these 2 days. I would say a day and a half, really. But I did really enjoy making this video. No wonder I wanted to take it slow. I think I knew deep down that I was feeling tired, and yeah, it's because I was getting sick. I feel like my eyes still look kind of glossy. Anyway, I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that you're all well, and that you're taking care of yourself, and that you're reading something good. And if you're not reading something good, I hope you're watching something good. That's all. I will see you very, very soon. Ciao, ciao.